Derek Carr gets an extension, right? Wrong. We'll talk about it. Do you start to feel a little compassion for Baker Mayfield and Alex's special segment 3? Alex Clancy, Tyler Rowland, Locked on NFL Thursday. Oh, giddy
up, baby! You are Locked on NFL. Your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In Locked On NFL Thursday, Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals, Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans. Follow him at Titans. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Please subscribe to the Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. We got a fun show today. We keep getting just blessed with content. I get a DM from Tyler at like 10 a.m. every Wednesday saying, well, we've been blessed again. And today's no different. Derek Carr signs his extension. We're going to hit that with the first segment. Baker Mayfield, Baker Mayfield has been a very polarizing guy. I've defended him a little bit. I'm really excited to hear Tyler's thoughts in the second segment. And then it is going to be a surprise third segment, a trend that we're starting to see. Is there any way that it's going to slow down? And if not, what is the end game for it? Tyler doesn't even know because he does a lot of research. I don't want him to do research. I want in the guts response from him about my topic in the third segment that he doesn't know about yet. First, Derek Carr, 3-year, $121 and change $1 million contract extension to stay with the Raiders. I'm going to go first here. Normally I toss it to you. I'm going to go first because I think we're going to disagree about this. I think this is a home run for the Raiders for a couple reasons. Derek Carr is not a top 10 quarterback. Derek Carr is not a bottom 10 quarterback, but Derek Carr has a top 10 offensive roster. He's got stability now. The John Gruden, Mike Mayock, Antonio Brown saga is now gone for different reasons. And I think that not only is he the bona fide 100% leader of that team, and those players absolutely love playing for him, he is a level-headed leader in a day and age where leadership is undervalued across the landscape of how much a player should be paid. And I think that Derek Carr, although he's not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, he's certainly not one of the worst. And I think with that roster, bringing in Devontae Adams, his college wide receiver 1, adding to Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake, and the list goes on, I think he's the perfect quarterback to be leading that team for the next 5 years. Agree or disagree?
Okay. Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. This is complicated. So, is Derek Carr underrated? The answer is yes. He's better than like your casual fan would say that he is. He's somewhere in the, Dak Prescott, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, that range right outside the elite guys. So he's in there. So I think he is underrated, but typically, Alex, you are the one on the show telling us once you give a quarterback big money, you can't win. You can't win. So I think the Raiders had to do this because they went out and got Devontae Adams on the strength of the relationship of Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. So you can't double cross Adams and then let Carr go. So I think Carr is underrated. I think that they had to do this, but I ultimately think it's going to be a bad deal because once again, like Ryan Tannehill, like Kirk Cousins, like Dak Prescott, here are the guys who make $40 million a year on average in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr. Who doesn't belong? To me, it's obvious it's Dak and Derek Carr. So I think that, as you say all the time, it's very tough to build a roster that's competitive enough while paying a quarterback that much money. And some of the teams that have done it are feeling the repercussions of that. And I guess there's a line, like Matt Stafford is that line. Like if you look at all the top quarterbacks in the NFL, you're going to get to Matt Stafford like right after you get to, Josh Allen and you're going to be like, man, Stafford doesn't feel as good as Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady, you know, the elite guys. Stafford doesn't feel like he's really there, but he also doesn't feel like Dak and Derek Carr and Tannehill and Cousins. He doesn't feel like those guys either. So I think Matthew Stafford is a unique example of a guy who you can pay big money and it's still not enough money to win. Derek Carr has reached the $40 million mark. However, is he a good enough quarterback like Max Stafford to get that money and still be good enough to lift his team enough to deal with the gap of roster that you can pay by having maybe a guy on a rookie contract like a Burrows? So really the question is Derek Carr a Stafford, or is he a Cousins, Tannehill, Alex Smith, Dalton for a past reference? Is he one of those, or is he a Stafford? That's a question we don't have the answer to yet. He hasn't been, but maybe he can be.
Stafford wasn't a Stafford until last year.
See, we say that, but I feel like he was one of those people who everyone always said he was so talented. He was just stuck in Detroit. And I think that might be fair and might be proven right.
Yeah. No. I get it. I understand. But Matthew Stafford got paid a lot of money because he was the leader of the Lions, and he was a great leader. He was a great quarterback, great locker room guy. He checked all those boxes, whether they won or not. It's a little bit different here because with Derek Carr, first of all, contract-wise, an extension is a lot different than giving somebody money after a rookie scale deal. They're going to save money by doing it now. He's got one more year on his current contract, so they're ahead of the curve here. You know, what that means for Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, I don't know. Devontae Adams already got 5 for 141. He got his money already. This is different than taking the big chunk out when you know it's coming and you don't know if he's the right guy. Derek Carr is the right guy for that roster, in my opinion. We'll see if he's Stafford. Stafford obviously had a better gun. He was a number 1 overall pick. You know, the whole thing, it's different. Right. But I think Derek Carr is a perfect quarterback for that team.
Well, to bring this thing full circle, at the beginning, you were talking about how the cloud of Gruden and Mayock and the Antonio Brown stuff and all the weird draft picks they made and all that cloud is gone now, and it feels like they have a competent setup in place. Well, although he didn't move teams, Derek Carr, could that lifting of the cloud and just mature adults in the room, could that almost be a symbolic similarity to Matthew Stafford leaving the clouded organization that is Detroit and going to a competent team in Los Angeles with one really big paid defensive star? You know what I mean? So, well, the Rams have a few more than just one at that point, but just saying that there is certain similarities there if you want to make that argument that Derek Carr is good enough. He just needed a little bit better circumstances. Well, maybe the Detroit-like organization in Las Vegas is gone now, and they can be more Los Angeles-like going forward, and maybe that'll help him get into the Stafford spot.
Yeah, that's fair. Alex Clancy at Locked On Cardinals, Tyler Rowland, Tic Tac Titans on Twitter from Locked On Titans. It's fascinating. He's a fascinating guy for football nerds like us. He's fascinating because you don't know. You don't know. Like, even with Kirk Cousins, you don't know, but it's at a higher risk because he's been getting paid all this money for so long. And lest we forget, when Derek Carr got his new contract after his rookie scale deal came up, he was the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. So this is, and if he didn't break his, leg or ankle or whatever it was, like, they were the one seed in the AFC. And then you have, what was the quarterback's name? I couldn't remember it on my podcast this morning, from Michigan State that backed up Derek Carr. I cannot remember his name to save my life. Doesn't matter.
Connor Cook.
Thank you.
I know that Cook is right.
I made my podcast listeners wait for 20 seconds while I tried to beautiful mind it, and it didn't work. Coming up next, Baker Mayfield, another somewhat polarizing quarterback in a completely different way. We're going to talk about him. How is he being treated unfairly? Is this the nature of the beast? Should he still be on the Browns? We'll talk about all that next. First, betonline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports development, leading league reviews and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website or use your mobile device today to learn more about all of the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right, NFL fans, we're going to continue this Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Just talked about the quarterback situation in Las Vegas. Derek Carr gets a big extension. Can he make it worth it? We will see. Before we get into the Baker Mayfield conversation, though, I do want to thank you guys for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first to listen every day. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On NFL podcast on all platforms. It's available everywhere and always free, and that includes the Locked On NFL YouTube channel. And it's a perfect time to do that because we are going to have a ton of excellent draft coverage for you. Going to have live coverage with Locked On NFL Draft. We're going to have live coverage with Audacity, along with live coverage of the draft all throughout draft weekend, where we go live right before the draft begins each and every day. We are also going to have this year's ultimate mock draft, where every host from every team picks a player for their team in the order that the draft goes, and that's going to be running from April 18th through the 22nd, and then on the 25th as well, with a partnership with Audacity. So it's some great draft content. Make sure that you guys check it out. But that being said, time to get into this Baker Mayfield discussion. And as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, it is a polarizing topic indeed. But Baker Mayfield basically said goodbye to Cleveland fans. Cleveland went out and got Deshaun Watson, gave him all guaranteed money. Baker Mayfield obviously took it a certain way. And today, we got some interesting quotes or comments from Baker Mayfield, basically saying, to paraphrase, that he feels disrespected 100%. He was told one thing by the Browns. They completely did another. So he's definitely expressing disappointment. The question becomes, do you feel that he's entitled to this disappointment? Do you feel that the statement that he made originally early on about, saying goodbye to Cleveland fans and he put all in, should we feel bad for Baker Mayfield? And ultimately, the real question is, what team do you think he's going to be on next year? Because there isn't an easy fit right now.
This is unfair, and it's just the human nature of the beast. People compare him to Johnny Manziel subconsciously, and I don't know why. Like, can you see that? Can you see, I'm not saying it's overt. I'm not saying it's a direct correlative between the two, but I feel like it's still being burned from Johnny Manziel. Like, let me tell you, there's a couple things we know about Baker Mayfield. He's tough, okay? He's played with shoulder injuries, leg injuries, hand injuries, whatever. He's not coming off the field unless they force him to, and he's missed a couple games. Okay, number one. Number two, their two best players are running backs. So obviously, giving the ball to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the offense is the best way to score points with this roster. Number three, he's not great at intermediate passing, and on 3rd and 8 when you need it, he most of the time doesn't have it. So what he does that quarterbacks absolutely have to do to win games, he doesn't do as well as others. And I think he's still one of the better leaders from the quarterback position. Lest we forget, they were in it against Kansas City, and Andy Reid is an absolute maniac, calls a passing play with Chase Daniel to get the first down on 4th down instead of punting it when 31 other coaches would have punted it. Cleveland was in that playoff game with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. Now, the best place for him to go, I don't know. A run-first offense like Seattle would be perfect, I think. I just think it makes rational sense.
He's better than Drew Lock, right? You believe that as well.
Oh,
Baker
100%,
Mayfield is a better
100%.
quarterback than Drew Lock. And not that Baker Mayfield is really good or anything, but he's substantially a better quarterback. If Drew Lock were the starter, I'd say he's probably a bottom 5, bottom 2 starter going into the next season. If it's Baker Mayfield, he's like, 15 to 22, somewhere in there, depending on the day. So I if Seattle could pay a 5 or a 6, probably is more realistic, a 6. The real problem just becomes the money, because Cleveland has $20 million in cap space right now, about 19. And Austin Hooper's contract is a post June 1st, and that's like 13. So they're going to get like $30 million in cap space. If they don't, they're going to have to sign their draft class, which will be, $10 million or somewhere around there. But
right.
I guess Cleveland can eat some of the contract to get back a pick. And maybe that's it's like a Brock Osweiler situation where they got to pay a little bit higher with the pick because of the salary, or how much they eat. It lowers the pick on the other side. But yeah, I think Seattle does ultimately make the most sense.
I mean, now, what does that mean for DK Metcalf? What is that like? These are like real conversations that you need to have if
Yeah,
you're going to
these
bring
are
Baker
dominoes.
Mayfield in. You know, it's like if you bring him in, you are losing arm strength. Let's just put it that way. I mean, he can huck it. He's an NFL quarterback, but he's not Russell Wilson. Okay.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson has been throwing wide receivers open for a long time. And does it mean you trade for Baker and then you trade DK Metcalf and then you just blow it all up?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes. That's what they should do.
Yeah. No, I agree. And what if I since the beginning of the season, get 4 first-round picks for Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, let Pete Carroll walk, bring in a first-year college head coach to run that team and start over, baby. Because you know what? The NFC West is going to get weird over the next couple of years. We don't know what San Francisco is going to be. We don't know how long the Rams are going to be around. We don't know if the Cardinals are going to completely implode. Like that.
Kyler Murray's going to get traded to the Dolphins next year.
You're an idiot. We don't. And the crazy part is that would make rational sense if Kyler Murray wants out for the place to go. But
I know.
With Seattle,
the skids early.
There's no perennial leader of the NFC West anymore. That's squashed. Maybe the next couple of years, but if you're thinking for the future, DK Metcalf is going to need to get paid $140 million or whatever, and you're not going to be the one to give it to him. So why not give up $2 million, Belichick it now, and just give it up now?
I mean, that would have been
stadium no matter what. The Seattle Seahawks fans are rabid. You're going to have a full stadium.
Well, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I think that starts with trading for Baker Mayfield, having him for 1 year to compete with Drew Lock, getting rid of both of them after that, and trading DK Metcalf during the draft, which I really do think does happen. I think New York will get desperate at some point. You know, when Garrett Wilson goes number 8 to the Falcons, they'll just call up Seattle and say, please, God, give us DK Metcalf. But either way, it'll be interesting to watch because he just can't stay in Cleveland. I mean, are they just going to sit him and tell him to go home for the whole season? Or like they just can't do that. So at some point, something's got to happen. Something's got to move. And it might be after the draft when some of these quarterback needy teams don't get anybody that they expected to get. But either way, we are going to move into the Alex's Magic Box segment that we do every Thursday to cap off today's show. Before we get into it, though, do want to tell you guys a little bit about Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of a $200 pair of sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for my listeners and our listeners here on the Locked On NFL podcast, head to shadyrays.com and use code Locked On. That's one word, Locked On. You're going to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code Locked On for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Also, just want to tell you guys about rockauto.com. Rockauto.com is a family business that's been serving online parts customers for over 20 years. Use their easy to navigate online catalog right now to get anything that you can need for your vehicle. They have tail lamps, they have motor oil, they have brake parts, even brand new carpet. So make sure that you guys go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box. It's right underneath your shipping information. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all of the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
All right, final segment, Locked On NFL Thursday. Follow him at Tic Tac Titans. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Tyler Rowland, Locked On Titans. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. So this has been the thing that we've been doing. I've just been keeping a topic in my pocket. I have not been telling Tyler what it's going to be. because I'd like him to not have notes written down for what we're going to talk about one segment a week. And that's what this is now. Wide receivers now, for their second contracts, are getting paid money that quarterbacks were getting paid in the mid-2000s. Like $25 million a year, $27 million a year. It's going to be 30 soon. My question to you, Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans, is where's the end in sight in this way? We've gone through the cavalcade of drafts where quarterbacks were taken higher than they should be, namely 2018, because there's been such a desperate need for quarterbacks on a rookie scale contract so you can build out the roster around them. Are we going to see a trend where wide receivers will be taken higher than necessary to hopefully strike Justin Jefferson in a bottle to where you can get those 4 years of $3, $4, $5 million a year so you can kind of push aside having to pay a free agent wide receiver $25 million a year for their services?
You know, yes, but I don't know. I don't know that it's that big a change. Let me just put it this way. So there are certain positions that since the beginning of time and until the end of time will get big time money. The quarterback, the wide receiver, the left tackle, the pass rusher, and the cornerback. Those are the 5 most important positions in football. I'll argue with you all day if you want. You're better off arguing with your mom because those are clearly the 5 most important spots. So, especially with the diminishment of the running back position, which was another thing that you could kind of count in there. Maybe, defensive tackle, linebacker at a time probably had that sort of value, but they have faded over time. But those 5 positions have always and will always be the most important. So not only are you going to see teams trade up to go get those spots, which we've seen trade ups for quarterbacks, we've seen trade ups for wide receivers, we have seen trade up. Think about Sammy Watkins in Buffalo. Think about Jack Conklin with the Titans. Those are just some examples right there. There have been more, plenty more. So teams are always going to trade up for those positions, and the cap is about to jump majorly in the next few years with new TV money, where these deals, these DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel, AJ Brown, $25 million, Stephon Diggs, $26 million deals aren't going to look as eye-popping as they look right now. So to me, it looks crazy right now because we're in a little bit of a change of the market before the new money kicks in. But once the new money kicks in, it's just going to be what it always was. The 5 most valuable positions in football, you trade up for them aggressively because they're so valuable, like you said, which is right. But you also pay aggressively for them as well because you can't afford to lose great guys once you get them. So I think the answer is yes, but I don't know if that is necessarily the groundbreaking trend that maybe we think it is right now just because we're in a market transition.
Yeah, but the thing is, and I agree, but I mean, the thing is that when you trade for established talent, you know what talent level you're getting for the draft picks that you're trading. If you trade up on draft day, you could be trading up for Denzel Mims or John Ross. And that's the thing where it's like, do you want to mortgage the future on what Todd McShay and Mel Kiper and Ryan Tracy and Eric Crocker have to say about a wide receiver? Or do you want to
Ryan
watch
Tracy and Eric Crocker? Yes, I do.
Yeah, of course. That was, thank you for answering for me the correct way. Like, there's nothing better than seeing it than doing. You see tape of Jameson Williams, even though he tore his ACL in college. People just kind of overlooking that because the ACL tear is a dime a dozen. Now look at OBJ. OBJ is still one of the biggest names in free agency after his second ACL tear.
The new ACL is the Achilles.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because it's, I mean, that's, you can't, well, unless
still
you're,
sucks.
unless
but
you're,
Cam Akers,
Cam Akers,
5 months.
Yeah, but I mean,
maybe.
Adrian Peterson's still leader in the clubhouse, like 13 days after tearing his ACL, went to Germany, and the rest was history. Let's just jump back here in the way back machine quickly. The Cleveland Browns had the 6th overall pick. They traded the Atlanta Falcons for that pick. They got first-round picks in 2011, 2012, a second-round pick in 2011, and a fourth-round pick in 2011 and 2012.
Julio.
That's 5 picks for Julio Jones. Now, what if Julio Jones turns out to be I don't know. What's another? Laquan Treadwell. Like what if Julio Jones turned out to be not Julio
Detroit
Jones?
Mike Williams.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, but Mike Williams got screwed because of the whole Maurice Clarett thing. He was one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen in football at USC. Keyshawn Johnson, I know Keyshawn Johnson. I think he won a Super Bowl, but he wasn't what everybody thought he was going to be coming out of college.
Oh no, Keyshawn was
this
awesome.
Is what
man. That's another debate for another day.
This is the trend that we're looking at going down if it doesn't stop. And I know the market's going to correct itself. I know there's going to be more cheese to spread around the plate. I know all of that, but we're going to see a team trade up to draft a wide receiver this year, right? Wide receivers are now. So you see Tyreek Hill, third round pick, right? Third round pick. You see guys that are going later in drafts getting paid $40 million. They're like, well, we want to get ahead of that curve. It's worth giving up a second this year for the chance to have the next guy. And we're going to see that a lot. And then you're going to see teams trade out of it and bear fruits. And you're going to see teams trade up and hit a next, all pro guy. But I think it's going to be a lot of movement. Like it's a quarterback light thing now because it's just them two on offense now. You're right. Offensive tackle, sure. Running back. Can I ask you a question? Running backs, they don't have to have a quarterback throw them the ball. They don't have to have they just get the ball handed to them and they go. Yeah. Why are running backs? Because they get the ball too much. They're not worth the money early on. I don't understand. To be a good wide receiver, you have to have a good quarterback, a great offensive line or good offensive line, another wide receiver there. You have to have so many things happen for you to be excellent at your craft. That blows my mind that it's circumstantial. There's talent level, elite talent, but there are circumstances involved.
I think with a wide receiver, really you need a good quarterback and you're going to get your numbers. Running back, you got to have 5 good offensive linemen. Yeah. So 5 to 1 necessary, but really it comes down to injuries and the tread on the tires. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Maybe the trend will turn back around and teams will want to get that, 5th year of control for a running back so they can have 5 years of them because the franchise tag money is going down so much for running backs now that franchise tagging a decent back really isn't that punitive anyway. Maybe you'd rather, have that 5th year for that running back that you can have at a cheap rate and then get rid of him after 5 years and it gives you an additional year of value. I don't know, but the running back valuation conversation is quite the pickle. But I think what will really dictate the answer to your question of if this trend will continue or increase even will be the results of what happened with the Packers and the Raiders and the Dolphins and the Chiefs. If the Chiefs and the Packers really take a step back and the Dolphins and the Raiders really take a step forward, then teams will probably start doing this more because it's a copycat league. But if it goes the other way or it's just marginal, it doesn't really affect either team, then teams won't want to pay the price for not only the receiver, but also the picks. And then that trend will stop or, it could go the other way and they'll just keep their best players and pay them their money. So we got to see what happens with these two big time trades of wide receivers because it's, pretty crazy and we got to see it. You never see the best wide receiver in the league traded when they are still the best wide receiver in the league. Well, DeAndre Hopkins, I guess. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, no. Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams both got traded.
That's twice. Just now. But so we got to see the results, I think, and it'll either scare or embolden teams going forward.
The crazy part about it, though, and we got to get out of here. We're running long. We seem to run long, but it's fun. I don't care. I'll talk for an hour. The weird part about it is the two people that we just mentioned were not first-round picks. DK Metcalf was not a first-round pick.
Which is why I don't know about this crazy trade up for wide receiver theory because these guys aren't first-round picks.
But if you can get, Justin Jefferson, first-round pick, CeeDee Lamb, he hasn't played like a first-round pick. From game 1 to now,
I know, but
they're always saying he's the number 1.
Jalen Reagor, first-round pick,
Denzel Mims, John Ross, the guys, Sammy Watkins. I see it all. For every Calvin Johnson, there are 15 Sammy Watkins that were there, but not really. And it'll be interesting to see. There's never been a time where wide receivers have been more ready to play in the NFL immediately.
Right.
It doesn't even matter body size. Look at Rondo Moore showed flashes. It doesn't matter size.
Well, Devontae Smith, you know what I mean? From Philadelphia.
He's frail. He looks like me.
Yeah. A lot of the top receivers this year are very lean and very frail. They're just coming like track stars. And with the lessened physicality in the NFL and, all the safety rules, maybe that allows that to continue.
Tyler Rowland at Tic Tac Titans. Listen to him every day for all your Titans information.
Every
Alex Clancy,
day.
Locked On Cardinals. What did I say?
No,
Did I say-
I'm
Oh,
just
you're my
telling
backup
him,
singer for that.
yes,
I appreciate that.
listen to me every single day on Locked On Titans. I'm telling you, it's a requirement.
Yeah. You can listen to him say that the only reason why Ryan Tannehill is good is because of Derrick Henry. That's what he says every day. Just listen. That's what he says. And he loves the GM of the Indianapolis Colts. You'll be able to listen to that 5 days a week.
Erroneous on both
He
counts.
loves Jim Irsay. He loves that whole Colts clan. Thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. Now make sure to make Locked On NFL Draft your second listen. Ryan Tracy and Eric Crocker, they do a great job from Locked On NFL Draft. 30 minutes, all the draft information you need. We're what? Holy crap. 14 days away from the draft. Giddy up, baby. It's coming. Alex Clancy, Tyler Rowland, Locked On NFL. We'll talk to you next Thursday.